I saw Billy Budd when I was younger. So were you.
Must have been about 6 months.
Yeah. And I know that you've had some challenges, for yourself playing someone who was older. Can you talk a little more about that, about how it feels to be playing somebody so, shall we say, venerable in this film?
You mean owning up?
Okay.
My great friend is a guy called Herbert Kretzmer. He was a Fleet Street journalist and critic his whole life, and then he wrote Les Mis and became a millionaire, wrote the lyrics. But he is one of my oldest friends, and I often consult him if I've got doubts about a project. He's one of the few people I consult. And I said, I've been offered this thing, and he said, do you want me to read it? I said, yeah. So he had a read of it, and he said, well, it's a wonderful screenplay, Terence, I said, yeah, I know that. He said, but you'll be opening a door that you can't close. I said, really? He said, yeah, because you'll be telling people how old you really are.
But you see, I know because I saw Billy Budd.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'll be 75 in July.
Mm-hmm.
So there was that, but that wasn't the real problem. The real problem was the fact that, I didn't feel right for the part. I just didn't feel right. I did my best to suggest other actors, that I thought it'd be better.
And how so? Why did you think it wasn't right for you?
Because I felt that I saw the guy's movie, I saw the London to Brighton movie, which is a gem, and I thought he deserves the best, really. And what I felt about the screenplay was that the story would have been more moving if the man had been more ordinary, more plebeian, and it would have made it more emotionally, would have made the emotional impact deeper. Because if he was a really ordinary working class guy, and this twin soul thing had happened to him, in other words, he'd met the woman of his dreams, and he'd been faithful to her and loved her and for his whole life, and they'd been faithful to each other, then that transcends an ordinary life. Do you understand? It's like Romeo and Juliet on the dole, you know what I mean? So that was my feeling, and I don't do ordinary very good,
That's obviously not true.
No, it's not. I tried to do The Collector. I tried to play faceless spotty bank clerk in The Collector,
That's a fantastic movie.
I know, but I turned that down for a year, Yeah.
What? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that, one of the things that I think was interesting about this character was this notion of kind of a sort of redemption in late life, of kind of a kind of recognition that he had to kind of transcend bitterness and kind of inner close down. So was that part of what you found kind of challenging because all the way along we see him as something, and so part of the question is, do you think that happens in later life as well?
That was my main reason for doing the movie, really, because it was everything you say, but it was through the voice. So it's redemption through the voice.
The ability to sing, you mean?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so because I'm a performer and I've worked for my whole career on my voice, this is a very expensive voice you're hearing. Well,
I would hold on to it.
If you listen to The Collector or you listen to Billy Budd, it's like 1/10 of my voice now, and that's a result of just work. That's breathing and that's voice. And that happened until I became out of work in 1969. I was out of work for 8 years. And I traveled to India. And in India, I became quite quickly aware of the fact that that they can have a completely different view of the voice. And their view of the voice is the fact that the human being is the breath. And, without food, without water, 90 days, 9 days, but without breath. No, breath is the condition under which we are here. So if we are the breath, what's the first manifestation of the breath? The voice. Mm-hmm. So they think that the essence of a person can be acknowledged, can be heard in the voice. Now, I totally contribute to that. I totally contribute. That made me view what I do and everything completely differently. Mm-hmm. And to be frank with you, and I, at risk of seeming a freak, I do breathing and voice every day, religiously. I can't remember a day when I've missed my breathing and voice exercises. It's just something I do. And so redemption through the voice can happen to anybody at any time. It's just people die without any knowledge of their voice. They die without any recognition of their voice. They die without thinking, where does the voice come from? What is there when before thought? What is there when thought isn't? It's awareness. The voice comes out of the awareness.
Do you wish that was that something that you discovered in India during that time, that sort of spiritual understanding of the self? And do you wish you'd known that earlier? Would it help changed your career? No.
I was very lucky to come in contact with people. I mean, I met Krishnamurti. I was working with Fellini. Mm-hmm. That would have been 1968. He invited me. This lunch, and I went to this lunch. There was this little Indian guy there sitting opposite me. There were stringers from Time magazine, Newsweek, and they were all asking him these questions, and he was answering, and I didn't understand a word, And he didn't speak to me, but he looked at me. And sometimes, when I was staring at him, these lies would come up, And then afterwards, he invited me out for a walk. I went out for a walk. Then I couldn't stop talking. And he suddenly stopped me and he said, look at that tree. I looked, tree. It's like a little, hard to live trees. And I looked back at him, he smiled, I smiled, we carried on walking. I carried on talking. And he stopped and he said, look at that cloud. It's a cloud. It's not pink, it's not lit from within, it's a cloud. I look at him, I smile, he smiles, we walk. I couldn't rest after that. I went to his talks, I couldn't understand a word, But he did something. He put something on me, do you understand? Mm-hmm. And years later, I understood. Mm-hmm. He was connecting me with me, connecting me to what I really was, to awareness itself. He was stopping my mind, do you understand? Mm-hmm. And so, as a result of not being able to understand what he said, but knowing the incredible beauty that I had never seen before, I thought he bore witness to something, do you understand? I mean, I understood, I couldn't understand it, but it didn't negate what he was, do you understand? So then I went to India. I thought, I'll start lower down,
Did that help you as an actor?
Are you kidding? When I came back, my comeback was in 1977. Mm-hmm. I was in Orange. I was in an ashram. I was Swami Deva Viten. And I was learning Tantra, so I could be the Tantric master in the ashram. And the whole ashram was constructed so that you stay aware, So I flew from Pune to London, and I go on the set. I'm still in Orange, right? And I thought it was like everybody was asleep.
What made you go back after having such a lovely 8 years?
Because
there?
I'd never, I always knew the call would come. And months went by, months became years, you know. But all the time I was in India and all the time I was studying these amazing things, I was thinking, wow, if the call comes, I can do something special now, you know what I mean? I'm really, I can have presence in the present, you know? I can bring that, I can bring something new, you know? I don't know, it was just my destiny. I always felt the call would come. I never thought it'd take as long.
When you look back at the films that you made before you went to India and before this awareness kicked in, do you see a different person? Does it strike you that someone that you barely recognize or barely know now?
No. Because there was always something added in my life between action and cut. Mm-hmm. There was, between action and cut, there was a better Terence somehow. And it never spilled over into my life. And that's what kept me working.
Just to attain that feeling of being better?
Well, I just thought, I felt confined, do you understand? I mean, I had to do movies because between action and cut, I sometimes got these wonderful feelings, you know. And it was how I earned my living. I was so poor, you understand, that when I got my first movie and it was successful, I thought, my God, I can actually earn my living doing this, you know. So what I then wanted was a long career, so that I started taking care of myself very early, really. So when I met Krishnamurti and I started, he was telling me about yoga and about breath and stuff, I was thinking, this is great, you know what I mean? I don't want to be drunk like Oliver Reed, and you know.
Those guys,
no,
right?
No, exactly. No, exactly. And they were my idols, you know, up until that point. But I thought, well, I'm on a different path now, you know. I've seen something magic, you know. Yeah. And so when I look at The Collector, when I look at Billy Budd, I'm astonished at what was there. Do you understand?
Yeah.
I thought, how did I do that?
Right, because you didn't feel you had the tools in life to do those
and
performances.
I wasn't really aware. I wasn't intellectually aware. It was just intuition, you know. And what was wonderful was that I only started working with not very good directors after my comeback.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
For those years of the 60s, I worked with the very best, and they loved me. Mm-hmm. And the fact that Fellini loved me and Weiler loved me made me feel fabulous, you know. And I turned down The Collector for months and months and months, and they finally said, we've got Weiler, you can turn down Weiler, you know. And I said, I was so unconfident. I'd read the galleys of John Fowles' book. I thought, I can't play a pimply, faceless bank clerk, you know. And I said, I'll do the test with the girls, but I won't commit. I'll do the test with the girls and I'll see what Mr. Weiler thinks, you know. And he didn't direct the test, he flew over to see them. And I went to Columbia and I was standing in the hall and I remember office doors opening and people looking at me and stuff. And then an office door right at the end of the corridor opened. And this little guy came out. And he just was looking at me, you know. Didn't take his eyes off me. Came right close to me and he just stopped. He didn't say anything. And I began to get a bit unnerved, you know. And I said, have you seen the tests? And he said, I said, which girl do you like? He said, I haven't looked at the girls yet. That's all. Thought. I said, do you want me? And I said, but in the book, and he pulled me close to him. I remember his breath smelled of gulwars, you know, he used to smoke French. And he said, we're not going to make the book. We're going to make a love story. Modern, he said.
We'll do
That's
just
a
one
good-
last question.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of working with the best of the best, could
Yeah.
you talk a little bit about working with Vanessa Redgrave in this film?
No, it was just heaven, really. It was it's a very unusual experience for me to work with. I haven't worked with a lot of great actresses, you know. It's funny because I've always wanted to, but for some reason, you know, in movies where there've been great actresses, I haven't been the lead, you know. But so it's really like Julie and Samantha. You know, there's not many actresses, but with Vanessa, because we were both kind of mature, or maybe it's always been like that with her. But there was a kind of non-separation of the spontaneity, you know, of the intuition. It just seemed like outside of thought, really, and so I actually kind of experienced kind of the interconnectedness of the best of us, you know. I didn't feel separate from her. I just didn't feel separate from her. And so I always knew exactly when to talk and I was sort of riding these huge feelings that were happening to me, and I'm sure it was the same with her, but it's not something you talk about, you know. Actors don't talk about that because you feel it. And it's very strange for me, you know, it's going to be very strange for me tonight because I'm not going to feel it, because I felt it then. I gave everything. I left everything on that set, you know. I can't have done any better, you know. I know I can't have done any better because I was totally present. Every day I was totally present, you know. There wasn't a take where I thought I'd like to do another one, you know.
Well, if the
So
box
there
of
was-
Kleenex that I went through during the film is any indication,
No, but
I
it's-
think you'll feel it.
Well, I hope so, but I mean, you know, I'm just telling you, like, how it is generally, you know.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Oh, great. Oh, great. Oh, I couldn't be more. I was hoping she'd be here, but, yeah, she's always working.
Yeah, I was concerned. It's because she was working, not
Yeah.
enough
Yeah,
problem.
they're both working.
I
Both
had this.
No, both the girls are working.
Ah,
Right,
great.
okay.
Super, thanks so much.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Terence, Terrorama, that was a Pasolini film, right?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so that must have been wild, eh?
Oh,
He was
yeah.
a wild guy.
Yeah.
Were you a wild guy in those days?
Well, I was experiencing a big love in my life with Silvana Mangano.
Okay, so good. So did you see Terrorama?
I did.
saw it in Europe. It was wild.
Adam Egoyan says it's his favorite film and he wants to work with you.
Great directors. Oh my God.
Take care. It's,
Thank you.
Bye, Rich.
Nice to see you. Thank you.